Welcome to the Only Land Fan Show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Alan Quintero. At just 22 years old, Alan Quintero has already made a name for himself by closing an impressive 130 plus land deals. His journey began under the guidance of a successful business mentor who recognized Alan's potential and taught him the ins and outs of the industry. Inspired by his early achievements and the lessons learned from his mentor, Alan has since launched his own thriving land investment business. His story is a testament to the power of combining hard work, strategic thinking, and the wisdom of those who have gone before us. Alan, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm super glad to be here. I hope everybody can learn some stuff today.
Yeah, we're super excited to hear all about your 130 land deals. So let's jump right in. Tell us, how did you get started in doing land deals?
Yeah, so I guess obviously my real estate journey started when obviously a lot sooner than most people. I started when I was actually 17 years old. I was still in high school and I actually attended an event that Grant Cardone did in Houston. It was completely free and I actually was meeting some people, and that's pretty much how I got started into real estate. But as far as land goes, I probably fell into land sometime around 2019 or so, 2020. And I did it with my partner that I'm running with today. He was started with Brent Bowers' course. Great course for anybody out there looking for something to really get started in like the more rural land space. But we started with sending offer letters and offer postcards, and that's really what got us started in land.
Love that. So I'm going to back up a little bit because you went to a Grant Cardone course. Now you're a workshop. You're in the Houston area. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm from Houston, born and raised.
Excellent. I used to live in Houston for about 12 years. Houston has a big part of my heart for sure. So you went to this Grant Cardone event and then you met other people. Definitely the power of networking right there. But how did you start doing real estate deals? How did you go from I was at a Grant Cardone workshop at 17 years old and now I'm doing real estate before you even got into land? How did that
Yeah.
work out?
A lot of the people that I met that day were most of where the help came from. I had an older man that has been a landlord for probably over 30 years, and he was explaining to me what wholesaling was, how to talk to tenants, and he would let me on the phone while he's talking to tenants and screening them and negotiating with sellers and even meeting private money. And I was able just to soak everything up, and I started to drive for dollars using Deal Machine. I built a list and I was sending mail because in the beginning I was terrified to cold call. So a lot of people. So yeah, I was sending a lot of direct mail, and we ended up getting a phone call from one of the mail pieces that we put out. It was a inherited type of lead. The father had just passed away and the daughter was out of state, and she just didn't really want to do anything with the property. She wanted to just pretty much offload it. And yeah, we got it under contract. I contacted a couple of people in my network that I met throughout those months of driving for dollars and generating leads. And I was able to pretty much get some help hands on and lock the deal up. And as well as dispositions, we had some help with that as well.
That's fantastic. What I love so much about your story is that you started not from a place of, hey, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital to get started. When I hear terms like driving for dollars and things like that, I know that you were in the hustle, you were in the grind in that very beginning. And so there are lots of people that may be listening to this that are in that same phase of trying to get something rolling, trying to get something going. So what advice would you have for someone who is hungry? Think back to your 17-year-old self who's listening. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know enough to be dangerous and I know enough to try to get these leads. So what advice would you have for people in that particular stage?
Yeah, if I was to go back to when I was 17 and to speed up the process to getting in front of deals, because obviously in the beginning it was a lot of trial and error and you go through a lot of stuff in order to even get that first real motivated seller lead, right? So what I would focus on is number one, determining if you have more time or if you have more money. If you have more money than you have time, I would invest in marketing right off the bat. And I would just either do focus on cold calling, sending RVMs. Direct mail is my favorite. It's worked for us since we started. And I would just focus on generating leads, and I would go network with people at these local real estate events in your local market and meet all the big players, see where they need help with in their business. And while you're out generating opportunities, You can call on these people. They're your friends, they're your allies. You need to go and create allies because you're never gonna know A through Z every single step. So what helped me a lot was the ability to just pick up my phone and call somebody who's been doing this for a couple years and avoid all the mistakes that I probably would have made without that. But if I was to start all over and I was looking to get to something as fast as possible, it would be spending money on marketing if I have the dollars, or generating leads and making offers. It's going to come out to those three things.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about networking and especially the term allies, because we hear a lot of the time that you don't have to know everything. You just have to know people that know everything. So as long as you can connect to those people. I think that a lot of people listening to this have all gone to their fair share of like in-person workshops or RIA events or something like that. What are some of the strategies or approaches that you take when you do go to these events? Let's say you don't know a single person. How are you meeting these people? What are you saying? You're just walking up and saying, "Hey, like, can I be your ally?" Tell me how you approach that.
Yeah, and the first thing is you're gonna have to break out of your shell. One thing I would recommend is going by yourself. You don't need to go with a friend that you already know everything about them and their entire life story. You need to go out and meet new people that have no idea who you are and you don't know who they are. And a lot of the times, those are the relationships that are gonna change your life. And yeah, I would say number one, probably consider going alone. So that way you have no choice but to get to talking to people. And yeah, definitely just tell everybody what type of business you're trying to build. If you're trying to wholesale, if you're trying to buy land and flip land, owner finance land, just tell people your objectives. And a lot of the times, especially when you're newer, especially if you're younger, people want to help you. And that's really what helped me get into rooms and just be friends with people. You got to care about people. You have to be a good friend.
That's really good advice. I love talking about this component, this mindset piece around getting started. So let me ask, Alan, are you an introvert or an extrovert? When you go to an event, are you naturally, I need to shake every hand in the room, I love doing this, or is it like I need to warm up a little bit?
Yeah,
Where do you fall?
I definitely got some warming up, and I have a social meter. It starts to shrink after a while.
Got it. Got it. So then how do you psych yourself out? Because these events are not like 9 hours long. You don't have a whole lot of time to warm up. So what do you do when you're going through like your mental, how do you psych yourself up to go to these events and say, okay, go shake some hands out and go meet some people?
It all starts with intention, right? If you before you even leave the house to go to the event, you need to ask yourself, what am I trying to accomplish today? And I promise the universe just puts pieces together for you.
Mm.
And there's been situations where I'm working on a certain type of deal, or in the beginning when I was newer and maybe I was just running into an obstacle that I couldn't figure out myself. I would go with the intentions to solve that issue, to move past that obstacle, and I would let people know that. And that's really helps.
Man, that is one of the hugest secret keys is that intention, and that are you being intentional with what you're doing? Because I think that there's something like energetically that will, like you said, if you have that intention, like it will draw that solution to whatever problem it is. You may not even know what the problem is, just have an intention to get to the next level. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. You mentioned that you had lots of allies, you had a mentor that really helped you to get going. Talk to us a little bit more about how you learned. You mentioned Brent Bowers. Brent is fantastic. We've had him on the show. He's really loved interviewing him. He was really great to chat with. So talk to us a little bit more about how did you learn?
Really, where a lot of this all kind of came from, the whole like entrepreneur, maybe building your own business. It started from my first mentor that I was pretty much taught a bunch of business aspects around the age of 15. If you're from Houston, you probably know Mattress Mac. I worked for him since I was from the age of 15 to about 20 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, save you money, man. Really great man. He taught me so many things that even in the darkest times when I'm struggling, the stuff that he taught me is really what kind of keeps me chugging and moving to the next level. Because I've seen him firsthand overcome stuff that most people probably wouldn't have thought it was like over at that point. Definitely having allies, mentors, and getting into a relationship with them where they want to talk to you and they want to help you. When I was younger, obviously Max, seeing that I was doing everything that from picking up trash to moving heavy furniture. And he saw that I was willing to do whatever it took. And eventually I got into the sales floor. Where I learned was being able to talk to the people who've been in sales for 20 or 30 years and the top performing people. What are the habits that they had? What are the traits that they had? And I started studying where excellence lied, right? Just picking things from people. As you meet people along the way, you like something about this person and they do this thing really well, a certain way. And you just take a little bit of everybody and you give them credit, of course.
Yeah, that is incredible. Success leaves clues, and that is so true. And yeah, talk about a Houston legend, Mattress Mac. What I can't wait to dig into that a little bit more. So let's jump back to your first land deal. So you did your very first deal. I'm assuming it was a non-land deal, your very first real estate deal. Then how did you make the jump to land, and what did that look like?
So before I made the jump to land, which is really interesting, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys that are newer are probably going through the same thing if you start with single family. 4 months in, I landed my first single family deal, and it was a gross profit of $45,000. And we split it amongst 3 people. I came home with 12, and everybody got their share. And I pretty much took that money and reinvested it to try and build a business around buying and flipping houses. And pretty much what happened is I spent most of my money over the course of maybe 6 to 8 months just buying lists and just trying different things. But I didn't find much success in houses. There was probably pieces of the puzzle that I was missing. But when I found land a year, maybe a year and a half later, after only doing one deal, it just felt a lot more, it made sense. So like I would look at the cost per contract average for houses was probably around $1,500 at the time to get one contract in marketing costs. And around the time when I got started in land, the cost per contract was around 300, $500 to get a deal. And it's about the same spread, right? So it just made sense to do this. So my first land deal, man, it's been so long ago. Let's try to think. This one, I remember probably came from offer letters because that's what we started with. And if you're just starting out, offer letters, if you can get the pricing, it's an amazing strategy. We would send letters about 25, 30 cents on the dollar of what the property's worth. And we would get calls in either accepting them, negotiating a little bit, or maybe they're just not interested and they'll tell us to stop mailing them.
All right, so if you could talk to us a little bit about what that first land deal looked like. Did you wholesale it? Did you get a lender to close on it and then you turned around and sold it? What did that look like?
I want to say the first one we did, we also wholesaled it as well. And what we've seen that how much interest there was, right? Most of the time when you're running into land for the first time, you're probably like, I don't know if this is worth anything. I don't know if anybody would want to buy this. And that's how we felt. But after all the inquiries and the offers that we received, we're like, okay, there's plenty of demand for something like this.
Yeah, coming from the single family house space, I'm sure you're like, wait a minute, I don't have to go walk the property. I don't have to estimate repairs. I don't have to schedule walkthroughs. I don't have to talk to sellers like in person. Like this is insane, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
talk to us a little bit about what does your current business model look like? What types of land deals are you currently specializing in?
Yeah, so today I want to say we have about 6 or 7 people on the team. 5 are in person, and we have a team of VAs, cold calling, and one admin. And pretty much the properties that we're targeting are mainly on the outskirts of major cities in Houston, Texas. So Houston, targeting some of Dallas and San Antonio. And we're really looking for properties anywhere from 2 acres to 30 acres for our normal kind of flip. We also offer owner financing on select properties depending on the price we're able to pick them up at. And when it comes to the bigger properties that are either more acreage, 50 acres to maybe 300 acres, I'm taking those and partnering with other professional land developers and people who are in the same field.
Excellent. So are you now still wholesaling, double closing, using lenders, using private money? How are you
To,
structuring these deals?
yeah, so today, most of the deals we'll do, we'll try to assign it if we're direct with seller. If we find a great deal, and so pretty much the way our process works is anytime we get a deal and it's direct to seller, our immediate thing is to just see what type of offers we can collect during our due diligence period. If we can get something and it's profitable and it's shortens our conversion cycle without having to put out more cash, most of the time it's way more worth it to just assign it than actually close on it and have your money tied up for maybe 90 days, 120 days, depending on how long it takes to close. A lot of the times we make more assigning it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're not having to deal with, especially if you pass on the closing costs and things like that to the end buyer, that's not coming out of your pocket. That's fantastic. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you found when you first started doing land deals?
I want to say in the beginning, it was probably a little bit more of finding good properties that had demand in great areas. What we were running to in the beginning was pretty much finding properties that were in the outskirts of a major city in Houston or Texas, and they might be lower price points. So your margin wasn't very big. It might only be worth 8 to 15,000. And it's hard to make money whenever the seller wants a certain price and the buyer might want somewhat of a discount. So it was very small margins. And we just started altering things little by little, and that's how we ended up to the model we're at today.
Excellent. So let's dig into some nuts and bolts. Talk to us a little bit about what criteria do you look for whenever you are choosing an asset class, a type of land deal. So you've mentioned that you're between 2 to 30 acres, sometimes more, right? But can you talk to us a little bit more about what types of deal criteria do you go after?
The deal criteria is mainly going to be anywhere from 30 to 55 minutes outside the major cities. And we want them to be affordable, right? Like a lot of the times there might be some areas that have a higher price per acre and it just shortens your buyer pool. There might be some margin there to make. It might be worth taking a stab at it. But as far as like our normal base hits, we want to keep the purchase price probably under 200,000 for sure. And like I said, 30 to 55 minutes, stay in that price range. And as far as size, typically doesn't make too much of a difference, but we're mainly looking at those things.
Gotcha. And what is the minimum value for these properties that you would take a look at?
I would say nowadays we're probably definitely north of 50,000,
Hmm.
just because we like to definitely have some margin there.
For sure. So, can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned direct mail, you've mentioned cold callers on your team. Talk to us about what types of marketing methods are you finding that are the most effective for you right now?
Yeah, I'll start from the top actually. So the number one marketing method that has been the most fruitful for us since the beginning of our business is going to be direct mail. It costs a little bit more, but it's going to be the best quality of leads. And probably the second thing as of right now, today, is going to be RVMs, ringless voicemails. So we're able to reach out to thousands of people and we drop a pre-recorded voicemail, pretty generic, saying, hey, I noticed you own some land in this county. Give me a call back. I have a couple questions about it. And the reason I like RVMs is because it's in the middle between direct mail type of quality and the quantity of maybe cold call leads. Because there's a lot of people that are going to be calling back. And the thing is, they have to pick up their phone, they have to listen to that voicemail, and they have to call you back. So that's why it's in between the two. And last, I would say cold call. Cold call, you definitely have to have some time to put towards it. And you're going to need more leads to a contract. In land, it's still not as bad, I would say, as single family, where I know the industry standard is 1 in 50 leads. But I would still say if you're starting with a budget and you want your dollars to go farther or be more impactful, I would say direct mail or RVMs.
So, can you talk to us a little bit about, for the direct mail piece, how many mail pieces are you guys sending out a month?
So I'll start off how it was when I started, because nowadays it's a lot different. When I started and we started consistently sending direct mail, I was spending about $2,000 to $2,400 a month, and I was consistently spending anywhere from $500 to $700 a week. Pretty much the way I was able to do that was because I had a sales job at Gallery Furniture. I was in sales, so I would stack my money, I would save some money, and I would just have this different bank account. I would save it in a different bank account so I know I didn't touch it. And I would just slowly drip from that money. I didn't have any big credit card limits or anything like that. And I would consistently get at least 1 to 3 contracts a week by just doing that. And today, obviously, our business looks a lot different. And we're probably sending about anywhere from 8 to 10,000 letters a month. And yeah, it's direct mail is still definitely one of my favorite marketing methods.
Excellent. And so your direct mail pieces, are they blind offers? Are they neutral letters? Talk to us a little bit about what the flow looks like.
Yeah, so pretty much when we drop a campaign, nowadays we're doing more neutral letters. So we're just seeing, hey, if you're interested in selling, pretty much give us a call. Because having to price more properties in wider spread areas becomes a lot difficult, especially in Texas, where it's actually a non-disclosure state. And a lot of the properties don't actually show what they sold for. Some of the stuff trades off market. So it's difficult to be able to price general areas unless there's a bunch of comps on the MLS, how it was when we started. So
Right.
today we're just sending neutral letters, and about 2 to 3 weeks after they land, we'll skip trace that same list and maybe take everybody out that has already called in from direct mail, and we'll either do a RVM or run it through our cold call team. And they'll pretty much just call and say, hey, we sent you some mail recently. I just wanted to see how you felt about it, just to open that conversation up again and see if they even received it.
Excellent. And so when you are looking at your sort of marketing cadence, so you're first sending direct mail, usually neutral letters. If they don't respond, then you're dropping an RVM or a cold call. So what happens if a lead doesn't respond to any of that? Are you retargeting those leads at any point, or what does that look like?
So now we are sending mail to the same campaign, but the list just gets smaller, right? We start to clean it off once we get responses from RVMs or cold call, or even from the direct mail itself. And the list will get smaller and smaller, but we will retarget the list because sometimes it takes 3 to 4 mail touches for them to give you that call.
Right, absolutely. So let's say they do get a mail piece. It's a neutral letter. It drives them to a phone call. Talk to us a little bit about the structure of your company. Who do they talk to whenever they call in? What's the next step in the process? And how do you get that lead to convert to a contract?
Yeah, direct mail and for ringless voicemails, we route them directly to the acquisition that we have. We have one acquisition that's in person, and it gets directly routed to him. He takes the call and he qualifies them. He goes down the how long have you owned the property for, and he gets the history of the land. What were your plans when you originally bought it? And you start to go down this story and you ask pretty much what changed. So now you have their motivation, how long they've owned it, what they planned in the beginning, and what changed. And then we start digging into their ideal timeline to sell the property, maybe a price range or asking price, and decision makers. We want to know who's involved in the sale of the property. So after we do that, and he asks some questions about property characteristics as far as like utilities and if they have a survey and just some minor details that we'll be able to also research ourselves. So after he has that initial conversation, he's gonna pretty much put all the notes into our CRM, and we use monday.com. That's pretty much, I built it out since the start of our company. And that then goes over to from the new leads group down to the due diligence group. And I'm always in the due diligence group, underwriting deals, putting together maybe 2 or 3 offers on each lead that we'd like the property on. And yeah, so I'll move it to make offer, and he'll go ahead and make the offer and negotiate, go back and forth. Or if I need more information, I'll make sure to put that before we put a final offer.
Really good. So I always like asking this question to people who got their start in single family houses and that are now doing land. I came from the single family house background as well. I had a wholesale business for about 8 or 9 years in Houston. And so I talk to a lot of land people who came from the single family space, and they say that one of the big questions that they ask is, how do you find motivated sellers? How do you find sellers that have the same pain that these homeowners had? So my answer to that is I found really quickly whenever I jumped into the land space that these owners had a very different type of motivation from the homeowners that were about to lose their home. So can you talk a little bit about what does motivation look like to you when you're talking to a seller for the first time to see if this person might be a good fit to do a deal with?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I like to start out with is you have to understand the demographic of people that are selling the properties, right? Once you put that into consideration, you understand that owning land is a motivation itself to sell. It's not producing any income. And you got to think, like I said, the demographic of people. Typically, they're over 60 years old, and a lot of them are retired, they don't work, and they don't have $3,000 to $6,000 to spend a year on taxes. So what you have to consider as well is you have to think about the average person in America or the average person in your market. They're almost one financial disaster away from being down to zero or under. With that being said, a lot of these landowners, they need to pretty much liquidate this property or this asset that's illiquid, that doesn't produce any income, and it's just costing them money every year. And I feel like that's where most of our businesses came from.
Excellent. And so if someone is only wanting full market value for their property, how do you guys go about negotiating the price with them? Does that automatically disqualify them, or is there a process that you guys go through when negotiating?
Now, if they're asking retail value and it's a property that I like, it fits all the boxes, we'll still make an offer and we'll put a couple offers in, to be honest with you. We'll either put a cash offer on a price that we'll actually buy it at and a price that will close super quick. Now, if that's too low for them, which, if they're asking retail, it probably is, we'll offer maybe seller finance offers. We'll come up with something creative. We're not locking up tons of deal on the acquisition side for seller finance, but they do happen and they do solve the problem for the seller to get as much as they can for the land. A lot of the time, they bought these properties for pretty much nothing. For them just to recoup that down payment might be the whole price that they purchased the land for sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. So, can you talk a little bit about what your follow-up processes look like? Because I know there are lots of people that are in the land game, they're in the real estate game in general, and they're like, how do you stop a seller from ghosting you? So, can you talk a little bit about what your follow-up processes look like to help that?
Yeah, for sure. So after we make the initial offer, if it's somebody who's relatively interested in moving forward, we're calling that person every single day until we can get something done. Let's say they stop answering. We have a group where pretty much they go to no answers, and we go back and we touch that group at least on a weekly basis or every other week, and we just try to see who we can squeeze out of that list. We'll rotate phone numbers, we'll send text messages, we'll triple dial, leave voicemails. That's pretty much what it takes. A lot of times you're going to be making hundreds of calls and you're not going to get nothing. But once you just need one answer, and there's actually a deal like that. Actually, I can even talk about a little bit where we called the seller 16 times and no answer at all. And finally get him on the phone. He's asking price is already in the money, and we ended up assigning it. I think that one we made $68,000. So if you're not calling the people who are not interesting, you gotta. If they're not calling the people who are not answering, you gotta be on top of that.
Hey there, land fans. If you're enjoying this episode and would like to see more episodes like this, please be sure to let us know by liking and subscribing below.
Yeah, that's really good. So, Alan, can you talk a little bit about how you built your business? What did that look like? The process that you took to go from doing that first land deal to now you're at 130 plus land deals. You've got 6 to 7 people in person. You've got a virtual assistant team. How did you grow? What were the steps like for you?
Yeah. So what really made the change is whenever I realized that I'm not very interested in being so much in the real estate business, but more in the marketing and sales business. Because I know if I'm trying to buy every single property that I come across, at one point, and I ran into this situation where we were buying more properties in the beginning, we run out of money, right? Another deal comes and you only know what you know. You peaked out at the moment, right? Your money's tied up in all this land. And yeah, things are selling, but it takes some time to recoup. And when I started to shift my focus towards more wholesaling and finding ways to enter deals with less cash, it's whenever we realized that we can go faster that way. So instead of buying one lot at a time or a couple lots at a time, we started to look at it that way. And that allowed us to see things clear when it comes to moving faster. And so we wanted to move in volume, and we wanted to also have some margin. So just small tweaks here and there. You have to spend a lot of time alone and reflect on where maybe your inefficiencies are and how you can make them more efficient. The way my mind works, I usually relate back a lot to what I learned at Gallery or with Mattress Mac. And I would see the way he ran his business, and I would pretty much just try to replicate it and in our world. So
That is very cool. So who was your first hire in the process of growing your business?
yeah, so in the beginning, it was me and a partner, Abamel Jimenez, AJ, and he pretty much handles all the dispositions. So we split the task pretty much in the middle. In the beginning, I started marketing, I would generate leads, and I would do the acquisition side. And once I had a contract or closer to a contract, he would also do the transaction coordinating and the disposition. So he would send a contract and then he would worry about selling it. So in the beginning, we did about 10 deals together before I think it was 2022. And we did a couple, we saved all our cash, and we brought on another pretty much equity partner, and he focused on like pretty much marketing director is what his title is. So he makes sure that leads are always coming in. And that's when we realized that's what the lifeline of this business is.
That's great. And so, for those of us who are listening that may have questions about, well, what does an equity partner look like and how did you find this person? Can you talk a little bit about that structure? How did you find him and what was the agreement in terms of what he brought to the table and what he would be getting out of it?
Yeah, for sure. So in the beginning, obviously, it was only three of us. So he was more hands-on in other parts as well, even acquisitions. So he was helping with acquisitions. But I grew up with him. I knew he had some marketing experience. I knew he was disciplined and he can see the vision and wait things through. And in the beginning, he would get paid on each deal that he would lock up. And then he just started getting a piece of each deal. Now, you got to understand too that without leads, there is no business. So whenever we switch to that, it incentivized him to make our marketing more efficient and make our dollars go farther because we wanted to obviously make as much as we can with what we had working with.
Yeah, that's a really cool insight. So you mentioned dispositions. Let's jump over to the dispositions department for a minute. Talk to us about what does your disposition process look like? How are you finding buyers buyers for these wholesale deals?
So we have a pyramid, I guess you would say, right? So at the top, we're gonna go and blast out deals to the fastest way into the most people. That's how we start at the top, and then we start going down the bottom to where it's more targeted people and it takes a little bit more time to get in front of them. So at the top of the list is going to be our email campaign. Now we have about maybe close to 20,000 people in there, and they're specifically looking for land. So anytime we have a conversation with somebody, we collect their email and make sure we have them in our constant contact. And are you able to hear me still? I just realized the
Yeah.
lady started. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, yeah, starts with the email campaigns. And then after that, we'll probably hit Facebook and throw it in Facebook a little bit. Facebook works fine. I just feel like it's obviously it's going to take more leads to get somebody when it comes to Facebook. Our email campaign, we have really high intent people that call in, and we have them call in as well, not like email back or anything like that. We want to talk to them live. And as we go down the list, we have some campaigns where we like kind of text blast people in our CRM. So we'll pull everybody who's maybe looking for something similar to this, and we'll go ahead and send them a text blast, and we'll go down even further and we'll start to skip trace entities, skip trace buyers who recently purchased within that same area. And a lot of times we'll sell deals that way. And last, we'll probably end up putting Bandit Signs, sell so many pieces of land. It's insane. We used to have lands.com. We had all these investor lift. We had all these fancy softwares, and they're great. But for the land model, I feel building an email campaign, building CRM relationship buyers, and Bandit Signs are probably the top three things to do.
Love that. So when you say Facebook, do you mean Facebook Marketplace? Are you posting them in Facebook land investor groups? What exactly are you doing on Facebook?
Probably both. We're posting them on Marketplace and in various different groups as well.
Excellent. Talk to us a little bit more about your bandit sign strategy. Are you putting the signs on the property? Are you putting the signs like at major intersections near the property, throughout the neighborhood? Tell us all the things about the bandit signs.
Yeah, so if you're assigning it, do not put it on the property. You're gonna run into some issues. But pretty much you just want to put land for sale, you want to put a phone number, and you want to put like a size range so people can call you and you can get a chance to pitch it. If somebody's looking for 5 acres and you got 3 acres, just put 1 to 5 acres and put need to sell land, call now. And you put these properties near all the high traffic areas, but you also want to be intentional because you got to think about people are going fast in a lot of these areas. You want to go and put them where people stop and slow down, and stop signs and banks and gas stations where a lot of traffic is moving and people are going to see them.
Yeah, that's great. So you brought up a really interesting point. You didn't want to put signs on properties that you are wholesaling. So when you are talking to the sellers and you are acquiring the property, you're locking them up under a contract, how do you position yourself? Do you position yourself as a wholesaler, as an end buyer? How do you have that conversation about what you're going to do with the property?
So we present it and we let them know from the beginning that we have multiple exit strategies on each property, which is the truth. Because at the end of the day, if it's a great deal and I'm getting at a price that I love it at, we're always going to buy it, right? I'm not going to let a deal go through just because I don't want to buy it cash. If I'm getting it at 50 cents or under, it's always worth the buy. Now, we'll also let them know that sometimes we owner finance these properties. So another thing that we do is while we're under contract with the seller, we'll pitch terms and we'll just cover the difference if there is a difference. Sometimes the down payment covers the purchase price of the land. So that's another thing. But yeah, we position ourselves to where we don't have to pretty much hide anything. We let the seller know that, hey, we got some pretty much a couple different exit strategies. Some of that looks like in bringing on a partner, and that's pretty much what if we do, that's pretty much assigning is what it looks like.
Got it. Now, have you ever had a situation where a seller sees their property on Facebook Marketplace, or somehow they find out that you're shopping the property for buyers? Have you ever had that situation happen before?
It happens every now and then. Nowadays, we try to keep details minimal and we let buyers reach out to us and we have that conversation from there. But since we do use two names, like on the acquisition side and disposition side, that's also like another layer that protects us. But even if they do, we just completely transparent with them. Yeah, anytime we get a property under contract, we go ahead and start marketing it because we want to generate some buyer leads before we have to close on it. But I don't like locking properties up higher than I would like to close on it most of the time. So
Of course, yeah. So what happens if you are in this wholesale model that you're trying to find a buyer, you can't find a buyer? Let's say that all of the offers that you're getting in is significantly lower than what you have the property under contract for. How do you approach it at that point? Do you go back and renegotiate, or what does it look like?
So usually we don't really like to go back and renegotiate deals. We like to get our numbers right on the first time, and we want to obviously offer very conservatively in the beginning. Every now and then that does happen. We'll pretty much let the seller know some of the feedback we've been receiving. A lot of times there's issues with the property that cause it to be that way, right? Sometimes when you're behind the computer and you're running deals and you're analyzing comps, there's stuff that you can't see from the computer that's in real life on the land. So sometimes there might be like a hole in the middle of the property and you just can't tell that from somebody has to go out there and look at it. We pretty much bring in a couple of things into consideration. And if they decide to come a little lower, then we're not going to try to get rich off of one deal. We'll make what we can and we'll move on. And that's pretty much how it works whenever our offers are coming in a little low.
Excellent. And you mentioned that you guys have two names, one on the acquisition side, one on the dispo side. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I know a lot of times and especially in the single family world, that happens a lot. Somebody will get caught on trying to wholesale a property and they'll use, or sometimes they'll even be able to search up their website name and they'll realize that There's some people that have the same inventory on the website that they're trying to sell. So it's just a way to just separate things. And it's been successful for us since the beginning. And we really don't run into that problem too much.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. So, what are some of your main deal breakers when you're looking at properties?
Right now, I would definitely say it's going to be floodways. Floodways are usually always a problem. Even if somebody gave it to me for free, a lot of the times I'd probably even pass on it.
On floodway property. So no floodways. And is it a requirement that the property have, especially these rural acreage parcels, is it a requirement that they have utilities, or how do you approach that?
Well, it's a requirement that they have at least have access to water and sewer and electricity, right? Because if it doesn't, then it's something that the person on the end buyer is going to have to deal with. And a lot of the times we're selling to people that they want to build a house on here in the future. We're not just selling to investors. We're selling to people who have plans with the property. And as long as it fits their plans, it's whatever goes at that point.
Got it. So your end buyers are typically like where they want to build on it. They're retail buyers, right?
Yes, I absolutely love dealing with retail buyers rather than trying to sell everything to investors.
Excellent. So if someone's listening to this and they want to get started in the land game, they're brand new to the land industry. What are some of the most important needle moving actions that people need to take on a daily basis to make sure that they are doing what they need to do in the land business?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, actually. When I first got started in real estate, like I said, I mentioned I spent about a year and a half, maybe a year, cold calling, talking to sellers, trying to get a deal. And I actually paid a good buddy here in Houston, Will Nicofaro,
Yeah.
and he used to do like coaching sessions. So I paid him for a coaching session, and pretty much the main things that I learned from that I still continue to this day is generating leads. You have to spend time generating opportunities, and you have to make offers every single day. For us now, our goal is to make 100 offers a month. So that's 5 offers, 5 business days is 20 days. We're trying to aim for at least 80 to 100 offers a month. And that's what moves the needle forward every single month.
That is huge. I know that, especially that was one of the lessons that I learned when I first got started. It doesn't matter how great you think your list is, how targeted it is, like you have to make offers and it has to be a lot of them. You got to take a lot of swings in order to get consistent deal flow.
Exactly. And then it then starts to depend on what type of list you start running through, because then you're going to start realizing you might be swinging for base hits or you might start swinging for home runs. So that's why it's important to consider what type of list you're marketing to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's dig into that a little bit more. So, are you guys making offers on every single lead if they have said they are interested? Let's say that you talk to a seller, they say they're interested in selling, but they've already indicated that they want way more than what you're able to do as an investor. It really won't even work as a seller finance deal. Are you still going to make an offer on that property regardless, or are you just going to move on?
It depends how off it is. If they're like double the value of what I could even sell it for, I wouldn't even consider it a lead at that point. But if they're maybe 10, 20% above retail, we'll still just tell them a range that we'll be in, because you don't want to give them an offer. A lot of times if they're stuck that high, they're going to take it offensive. And it's just better to give them a range. Hey, if something changes, no hard feelings, just call me back.
Yeah, but that still counts as an offer, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we don't really know what their true motivation is. Some people just feel like, oh, I just need to be high because that's what you do in negotiation. But in
yeah.
reality, they'll really sell for much lower. You have to just make the offer.
Yeah, you'd be surprised sometimes. You'd be so surprised. Sometimes they come in the call starting off so aggressive that I won't take a dollar less than this. And you just put that number on them and they'll start to simmer and think about it a little bit.
Yeah, that right there is gold advice right there. I think it is so important to not prejudge leads based on what you would personally pay for the land or whatever it is. That has nothing to do with any of it. It's all about what that seller needs and then just give them an offer and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you mentioned earlier if we're putting offers on everything or every lead that comes through the CRM, and I would say absolutely not. I probably pass on about 30% of the leads that come through. And whether that be because the price range in the area is too low and there's not enough margin there, or if it's in a floodway, if there's pipelines going all through the property, you have to consider we're looking for good properties or great properties in great locations with great demand at a great price. So if it fits more than half of those things, it's a deal and we're head on tackling it down.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And what I also heard out of that is you're not making offers on 30%, but you are making offers on 70%. And of those 70%, how many are just like out of the gate, you can tell this is a slam dunk before you even make an offer?
I would probably say it's a smaller number. It's a smaller
Yeah,
percentage
it's not
for
as
sure.
apparent, right? It's
Yeah,
not as
because
apparent.
I would probably say, let's say we had 100% total, right? 30% we're passing on them. And I would say another 40% is probably asking above retail, 30 to 40%. And then the rest, those are the warmer leads.
Got
And
it.
yeah, those are the ones where you just got to offer just a little lower. You're not too far off.
Yeah. Now those 30 to 40% that want retail, you're still offering on that, right?
Yeah, because we'll still
Yeah.
be able to convert something there. And if even if we don't get it today, it goes in the follow-up and they might not be ready to sell today, but even this week, we're talking to people that we spoke in December and November of last year, and they're finally ready to move forward at the price we feel comfortable with. Yeah.
That is huge. That is huge. I've seen so many people throw away so many leads because they're like, oh, they want retail. I'm not even going to make them an offer. And it's, oh, you're leaving so many like so many deals just on the vine.
Yes. The thing is, people have to understand that life changes and it changes quickly. So 6 months ago, they might have been in a different position. And 6 months ago, or 6 months ago today, fast forward, things happen, things change. You got to be able to follow up. That's what makes the biggest difference in maximizing on all the leads that you're generating.
1,000% could not agree with you more. Really good advice. What do you consider to be the biggest challenge in the land business?
The biggest challenge in the land business for most people is probably going to be more on the disposition side. People are going to lock up deals, and sometimes they're not putting them in front of the right people or the right type of buyer. It goes back to the story or the saying, if anybody's ever heard about it, but if like a farmer has a tract of land that's 100 acres and he's trying to sell it, he's shopping it to a couple people, and he gets an offer for 500,000, maybe in payments by another fellow farmer, right? So that's where that farmer will pay, where it makes sense for him to operate his business and make a nice profit, because obviously he's in business and he has to make money. Everybody's in business. They have to make money. And he shops it to maybe to somebody else who's a developer who's going to put 300 townhomes here, and he's maybe offering $2 million more than this farmer guy. So it's just, you got to think about who you're putting these deals in front of and put it in front of the right person, and you get the price that you're looking for.
That's really good. What is something that no one or very few people are talking about in the land industry that you think we should be talking about right now?
Notes, the power of owner finance notes. Just earlier this year is when we realized that whenever we sell a property on owner finance, we don't have to cover the big bulk difference and only take payments, right? We can sell that note, that promissory note, at a discount and cash out and walk away with your profit up front. So for anybody who, who's newer to this part or who hasn't been exposed to this part of the land game, I can give a little bit of a deal breakdown as well, right? Earlier this year, we had a property under contract for $55,000. It was north of Houston, and we tried to sell it for cash. It was worth all day about 110,000 or so, maybe 105, but nobody was willing to pay for this property. We were trying to give it away. I think at one point we even dropped it to $70,000 cash, but it didn't work. Nobody was biting. So what we did was then we offered owner finance terms. So we said, hey, if you want to buy this for 110 with 20% down, we'll entertain any offers like that. Now, mind you, we have the property under contract for 55. 20% of 110 is, I don't know, $2,200 or something like that. So we still would have had a difference of $33,000 that we had to cover the difference of. So we ended up going under contract with the buyer, and we negotiated a little bit back and forth. And we created pretty much a win scenario where the buyer was able to finance the property. He put $25,000 down, and we sold the balance or the promissory note of what he owed us. Because when you create an owner finance note, pretty much you have this piece of paper and it says a promissory, and it means I owe you, and these are the terms. So he owed us $79,000 at, I want to say it was 8% interest over 60 months. So he had a pretty high payment. It was like $1,600 a month. He wanted to pay it off quick. So what we did was we sold the promissory note of $79,000 for around, I think it was 53,000. So now we have a cash, this promissory note in real cash at the title company, not real cash on my desk or anything. We keep the down payment. We pay the seller the difference. So they walk away with their 55 grand, and we ended up walking away after fees and everything, closing costs, with 20,000 net profit. But instead, we were going to have to pledge out 33 grand. Instead, we're walking away with a $20,000 check at closing. So that's something that's not being talked about much. And I think that, especially in land, since you can't just go to a bank and get financing, this is going to help a lot of people sell properties a lot faster.
Yeah, that is gold. So if someone is used to doing traditional cash flips and they want to start getting into notes, what types of resources would you refer them to go check out? Hey, go learn here, or go watch this, or what are some good resources?
This is a great book to get started with.
John Alexander,
Yeah.
absolutely icon.
How to Flip Discounted Notes, and you can get the book off Amazon. It's a great book. It's very simple to understand, and once you understand this concept, it opens you to a whole different world of land investing. Like there's so, before, when I got into real estate, obviously a lot of people's goals are to own a lot of properties, own rentals, and get cash flow. But after I learned the power of notes, I think I'd rather become a bank.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people that they say that's the evolution that they've been on, is that they were at one point a real estate investor, a land investor, and then they've evolved into being the bank, and now they're just a lender. Very cool way to leverage money for sure. So, Alan, what do you consider to be your superpower?
I would say my superpower is probably anything that we put together. I'm usually thinking more at scale. Like, how can we do this? How can we do a lot of it? And how can it be efficient? And that's how we ended up to where we are today.
Yeah, 130 plus deals, not too shabby. What are some of the biggest things that move the needle for you in being able to scale that quickly and do that kind of volume?
I would say it's focusing, like you mentioned, like what I'm good at and what I enjoy to do. Yes, I can talk on a seller, and yes, I can lock a deal up. Maybe not. You just got to pretty much feel comfortable with taking yourself off the spotlight and being able to put other people in position to be a part of something, right? And that's pretty much what we created here. Everybody feels like they're a part of the Easy Land family.
That is beautiful. Yeah, company culture, massive, so important. What's your personal definition of success?
For us, for at least for me, at one point, our life changed a lot, and we weren't really able to have a lot of things, and we're not really so much about like glamorous things and fancy things or new cars and stuff like that. But instead, just to be able to support your family, take care of what you need to take care of, and be able to put people you love in positions to do better for themselves.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Who are your favorite entrepreneurs, business owners, thought leaders that you like to read or follow?
I would put number one at that list is going to be Mattress Mac. I learned 1,000,001 things from that man, and just seeing him run his business hands on, and he's 70 plus years old now, and 7 days a week. He used to tell me, I wake up earlier than you and I sleep later than you. You're going to have to catch up, young man.
That's so good. That's so good. So, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from Mattress Mac that you have used in your own business and life?
I would say it comes down to those moments where it feels like it's the final quarter and you're behind a couple points. In that world, it was like maybe the last day that you're working and you're behind on your sales quota. But pretty much what he taught me and what he would always say all day on the microphone and to us in person is just keep swinging. It's just fall 7, rise 8. And you start to understand that if you keep swinging, you're always going to hit. It's the people who give up that don't get much farther. But if you just keep chugging along, it's success is just bound to meet you at halfway at least.
Yeah, that is really good. That is really good. So, what's the biggest surprise you've had so far on your journey in the land industry?
I think realizing that how much bigger this thing can grow. Like Anthony Ganoa and Daniel Martinez from HiveMind talk about how much dead equity is in land in just the state of Texas. And it's just there's so much opportunity. There's really enough for everybody to get a piece.
Yeah, that's great. Hive mind guys, fantastic, fantastic people for sure. What's your biggest passion or goal you'd like to achieve at this point in your life?
I would say today I have this 10X booklet that I still use today. And I write down like my main goals in life and where I'm headed. And I would say probably like the top two is gonna be I want to build like a hacienda acre, like 20-acre ranch for my family for us to go out there and just enjoy the simple things, right? No electronics, just out there spending quality time. And I definitely want to be able to retire my mother through investing in notes. She's been there and she's taken care of us through all the times that in my younger days when life would get pretty rough. And yeah, I want to make sure I'm able to repay her.
Yeah, I love that. Mothers are special people for sure. And I love that that is what lights you up so much. So, what makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
Inspired for my best self. I would say because I understand that I am young. I understand that if I just keep working on myself every single day, I get 1% better. I change small habits here and there. I understand that there's probably everything I want on the other side of change.
That's really good. That's really good. And for maybe there are people that are a little bit younger than you, or maybe around your age that are listening to this and they're like, man, I just can't get out of this hustle, grind. What would you say to them?
You have to put your head down and you got to embrace it. Instead of dragging yourself along the whole way, you have to enjoy the journey. And I had an issue with that myself. I felt I don't have this yet. I don't have that yet. But when I started enjoying everything that came with what I was blessed with, it just, even the issues, even the problems that come now, I'm grateful for them because I know once I overcome this, once I do this a couple times, it's going to get easy. And it's the truth. Like I look back and a lot of the things that were problems before, it's just another day now, today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You have gotten better at handling those things, so it's no big deal for you. That's
Yes,
awesome.
exactly.
That's awesome. So I want to thank you so much, Alan, for giving to us today. You've been so generous with your time and your knowledge. What resources or connections are you currently looking for? How can we give back to you?
I'm always working with people, doing JVs, also for bigger tracts of land, looking to partner with people on deals similar to that. We have the team, we have a lot of knowledge, we can get deals sold. And yeah, that's the main things.
So if someone wants to reach out to you and wants to JV with you, how can they get in contact with you?
The best way would be through Instagram. You can reach me on Instagram anytime. It's Alan, ALANH Quintero, Quintero is the last name. And I actually have a Discord as well. And we do weekly calls on there, teaching people who are just getting started in land and helping people along the way.
That's fantastic. And we can get information on your Discord on your Instagram as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just shoot me a DM. Maybe just put Discord and I'll make sure I get the link over to you.
Awesome. And we'll definitely put your handle in the show description. That way people can reach out to you. I want to thank you so much again, Alan. So thank you guys so much again for all of you joining us. This has been absolutely fantastic. Join us next week. We'll have more content, more interviews coming up for you at Only Land Fans. Until then, take care. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. If you're interested in hearing from other 6- and 7-figure land flippers about how they've built and run their businesses, then check out my group, Only Land Fans, where I do a live interview each week inside the group. You can grab that link at the description below. Until then, be great, have a great week, and catch you in the next one.